Hi guys, happy live. This is going to be one of my last lives at this location. I just actually sold this condo today, so I will still be doing them, but just from a different location. So the background might change a little bit. Obviously, I switch it from the summer to the winter just because with the windows behind me in the winter, it kind of looks funny in the pitch black. But the location will change. So thank you guys for popping in, and I will do my normal, which is answer your guys' questions that have come in throughout the week, as well as do happy news and real estate updates. So I'm going to dive right into the first question, and the first question comes from Craig, and Craig is out in Hillsdale. So Craig said, I want to buy an investment property. Do you suggest detached, condo, townhome, duplex? There are so many options. I'm unsure what to do. Thank you, Craig, for asking. To be honest, it depends on your price point. So let's just say your price point is $600,000. Obviously, you're more limited in what you can buy. Whereas if your price point is 1.4, for example, then you have more options. So let's just say your price point is higher. Then you could start to look at your return, right? So your investment, what are you putting in? Are you putting in $50,000 and you're getting back $5,000 a month, or are you getting $5,000 a year, or what have you? So you're seeing your return on investment or your ROI. And so how you're going to do that basically is see how much you're putting down, and then you're going to run and see, basically have, not to say schedules or timetables, but basically see what you're going to get back. So let's just say you want to rent it short term. You're going to see what they're renting around you. So let's just say you want to get, $200 a night, but they're only renting for $80, or you want to get $200 a night, but they're renting for $380. So you're going to do your research and see what they're renting for, as well as how often they're rented. Or if you're doing long-term, you're going to see, okay, what have long-term been renting for? I think I can get $2,800 for it, but you see that people are only getting $2,200 for it. Or maybe you think you're going to get $2,800 for it, but you're actually going to get $3,500 for it. So you just have to do your homework and see, okay, if I buy this townhomes are averaging $650. Obviously, I just made that up depending where you are. So you're going to see, okay, townhomes are averaging this, and I'm going to make this as short-term and this as long-term. If I rent a duplex, the average upstairs is $3,000, the average downstairs is $2,100, etc. And you're just going to get all your numbers and say, okay, $50,000 this gets me this, $50,000 this gets me this, etc. Again, I'm just using $50,000 as an example. It might be $100,000, might be $150,000, etc. But you might be putting $150,000 into a duplex. And let's just say, for example, making $38,000 a year, but you might be putting $150,000 into a townhome and making $70,000 a year, or maybe only making $11,000 a year. So you just have to check based on your area and so forth. But obviously, it all depends on what you can afford. Okay. Hi, Scotty. How are you? Hi, Jake. Hi, Brad. I can't see everybody. Hi, Teresa. Thank you guys for popping in. So again, I'm just going to do my normal, answer some questions, do some happy news, and then do real estate updates in the middle. Okay. So the first thing is that a school got over $10 million, which is crazy. So some people say, like, why did one school get $10 million and it didn't get divided amongst a number of schools, I should say. So it's actually the founder of Snapchat. I'm sure you're all familiar with Snapchat. I personally don't use Snapchat, but the founder of Snapchat went to this art school in Los Angeles. So he decided this year there were 84 students that were graduating. So right as they were about to walk down the aisle, they have their cap on and so forth, and they found out that all their debts would be paid. And on average, to get what's called your liberal arts degree, it's about $50,000 US. So to think that, hey, I'm going to have a $50,000, I say OSAP, but I don't know what it's called in the States, not a penalty, but, outstanding to a bank or so forth, a student loan. And then to find out that you're not going to have that as an awesome graduation gift. So that's the fellow, again, from Snapchat. He gave over $10 million to the school where he had graduated from in LA, which is really awesome. The next question comes from Jordan, and Jordan lives in Barrie. So Jordan said, my mortgage is going to go from $1,700 and change to over $3,200 a month. I make around $4,500, so this seems impossible to keep up. Should I just sell? Thank you, Jordan, for asking. So a lot of people are doing that, hearing that the market is going to go down and so forth. It's supposed to be the lowest of low spring next year. So a lot of people are trying to sell now while they can get more money, which is common, or other people are afraid that if they sell, they'll never get back into the market. So if, for example, you want to stay in the market, you could, let's just say you have a 3-bedroom, you could rent out 2 of the bedrooms, or maybe you have a basement, with a separate entrance, or even not a separate entrance. Maybe you could rent it, to some students or something like that. There's even people that like park a boat in their driveway or something. They're like, hey, it's $200 per month to park your boat in my driveway or so forth. So there's lots of different options that you could do. Those are obviously simple ones, renting out a room or basement, etc. But you could do like boats or trailers or that kind of thing as well. And then obviously checking your spending. You're not going to, not to, poo-poo on Zayres, but Zayres is a lot more expensive, for example, than No Frills or Freshco. So just watching your spending and so forth and seeing maybe you have like some subscriptions. Maybe you pay for, Netflix is the only one we watch, but you have like 10 other subscriptions that you don't even realize. So maybe just go on your Visa and be like, hey, I don't use that. Hey, I didn't realize that was automatic. Hey, I thought I canceled that and so forth. Just to see, you could probably cut around 400 or so a month of different subscriptions that you probably don't even know about that you're paying for. So that is what I would suggest. And thank you for asking. Okay. So there was a man in Philadelphia, and he's been a volunteer for over 30 years. He was a veteran, or is a veteran himself. He was in Vietnam. He went when he was 18, and he had an injury just to his foot, but he can still walk and everything like that. But he basically has been volunteering for over 50 years, so you can guess his age, for people that were hurt in the war and in wheelchairs, etc. And he's put over 300,000 kilometers on his current vehicle. And somebody heard about this, that, he's been doing it for over 50 years and, putting all these miles on his car, etc., all for free, just to drive all these people to their doctor's appointments and to, groceries, etc. So somebody heard about it, and they got him a brand new van, and it's accessible for wheelchairs, etc. So I just thought that was cute because, again, I like any happy things. So somebody heard he was doing a good deed, so they did a good deed in return. The next question comes from Jay and Cassidy, and Jay and Cassidy are in Barrie. So Jay and Cassidy said, we rent and our landlord wants to up our rent from $1,300 to $2,100 and said we've had a deal for too long. Can he do that? It doesn't seem fair to us. Thank you, Jay and Cassidy, for asking. So he can't actually do that. I'll talk about it later. So in 2023, for example, it can only go up 2.5% in Ontario, which obviously jumping, what did you say, 1,300 to 21 is way more than 2.5%. So let's just say you're in a year lease, for example. I'm just telling you different options. So at the end of the year lease, he could say, hey, I'm moving in, and he could give you 60 days notice to move. Or he could say, hey, I'm upping your rent, but it can only go up 2.5%. It can't go up from, 1,300 to 2,100. That's not allowed. However, if you were to move out physically of the property, then somebody else could come to look at the property, and he could tell them it's 2,100, but he can't up yours from 1,300 to 2,100, just so you're aware, okay? The only thing that is different is if you rent a room. So if you rent a room and you have common space, so your kitchen, etc. is common, then unfortunately the Residential Tenancy Act doesn't apply to that, so he can up your rent. So if, for example, you're like, hey, we have the basement, but it's just a living room and a bathroom, and we still share the kitchen and the common space, etc. with him, then unfortunately you can. So hopefully that is not the case, but thank you guys for asking, and I wish you the best of luck with that. One more thing before my real estate update and poo-poo on Zayres, Scotty. One more thing is there was a little girl, and she was given a less than 10% chance to live. She was born on March 4th, which was super early. She weighed less than a pound, and so less than basically a slice of bread. And now she was just discharged. She had a level 2 bleed or something in her brain and a hole in her heart when she was born. And she was just discharged. Now she's 10 pounds, 8 ounces. So her parents are super happy. They're 27, and they're super excited to have their first child home. So I just like happy stories, especially since she was given such a low chance of survival. So I like that. So jumping into real estate. So just as a reminder, we have 2 guarantees right now. So one is if the market crashes and you have to sell your house, we'll sell it for free. So feel free to call our office at 705-726-7000 for details on that. Again, 705-726-7000. And the next guarantee is that we will sell your house guaranteed. And if we don't sell it, we will buy it for cash. So again, if you want the details on that, feel free to contact the office, and we'll go over all of those with you, okay? So jumping into real estate, okay, guys? Feel free, again, to ask any questions in the sidebar. Otherwise, I will just blab away. So last week I spoke about a lot locally. The week before I spoke about a lot of provincially. So today I'm going to do some rentals. I'm going to do some GTA stuff and do a bit of a mix of everything. I just like to switch it up. So first, rentals. So yes, the market has cooled in home sales, for example. Pricing, etc., obviously is not the same as February, March, etc. But something that has not cooled is rentals. So rentals have skyrocketed, okay? So rentals in Canada are now $1,976 on average for an average rental. So this basically took everything, bachelor, 1, 2, 3, 4 bedroom, etc., averaged them all, and it's almost $2,000 in Canada, okay? So obviously with a lot of, interest rates rising and so forth, landlords are saying, hey, my mortgage has gone up, so it doesn't make sense for them to rent anymore. So let's just say if they rented for $2,500 and their mortgage was $2,000, they were making $500 a month, but now if their rent is $3,800, and now they're not making anything, and it's costing them out of pocket, to have, tenants in there. And a lot of landlords are worried, what if the tenant doesn't pay and it takes 9 months, a year and a half to get them out, and they're already going in the hole every month just to keep them in there. So a lot of landlords are selling. So that is something that is happening right now. So Canada's inflation rate right now is up 6.9%, and Canada's rent is up 11.9. Okay, so inflation up 6.9 and Canada's rent is up 11.9. And I'm going to do different areas like Ontario, etc. as well. Okay. So if we break it down separately, out east, for example, is up 32.2% for the average rent out east. Ontario is up 17.7%. BC is up 15.1%. And Alberta is up 13.2%. So rent is crazy. And we've had a lot of tenants, people wanting to rent lately because they've been priced out of the market, or they want to wait till the market to come down, etc. So there's lots of people trying to rent right now. And sometimes landlords say, hey, no, I'm not interested. And I'm like, oh, okay, is it their credit? No, they have good credit. Oh, is it because they don't have a job? No, they have a job. It's not because of anything like that. It's strictly supply and demand. So there's just not enough supply, as a lot of landlords, I mentioned again, their interest rates have gone up, etc. So they're saying, hey, it just doesn't make sense for us. So then they're selling. So there's just not as many or as much needed of rental properties for sale. So therefore there are way more tenants than availability for rental properties, okay? A lot of tenants are putting more than half of their rent towards, not half of their rent, half of their income towards their rent, which obviously doesn't leave money after paying their, grocery bills, if they have a car, if they have insurance, etc., childcare, and so forth, to save for a down payment. So obviously they're not getting to save in that way either. And a lot of them are looking for 2 and 3 year mortgages because they're afraid that after a year their rent is just going to go up even more. So a lot of them are saying, hey, can I have a 3 year mortgage and so forth, because they're afraid that, the landlord after a year might say, hey, I'm moving in, or so forth. So a lot of them are looking for longer leases once they do get approved by landlords, which a lot of them are finding that they're getting shut down like 8, 10, 12 times before they even get a yes, which was not common before. Okay. So normally when we have increased demand for rental properties, there's lots of investors that normally come to the table and they're like, hey, I'll give this money. Hey, and I'll put this, I'll buy this, and so forth. I'll buy them near the university. I'll buy this, I'll buy that, or I'll buy one for my kids, and so forth. So they're, obviously can have a good return on investment, because obviously just putting in the bank doesn't really get them anywhere. But a lot of them are afraid, just with all the talks and so forth of things, and whether they're saying, oh, the bubbles burst, or it's a recession, or it's just going to be a slight adjustment, etc. So a lot of them are worried, so they're just not getting into the market, which again is not helping. It's like a snowball effect and not helping the amount of rentals available. So another thing that's affecting things a lot is the condo market in Toronto. So a lot of people that bought into pre-con, which is pre-construction, which means buying before it's built. So banks are getting smarter. So banks are saying, hey, I don't care that you paid $900,000 for this condo. They're saying, I'm going to appraise it. So let's just say, for example, it gets appraised at $700. They're saying, okay, well, you need $200 extra. So people are like, I don't have $200 extra. So the shovel hasn't even gone in the ground. The condo hasn't even started yet, and they're not being able to get financing. And then if they can't get financing to give the next payment to the builders and so forth, the builders are saying, well, we're not building on our dime. We're not putting our not tooth on the line, but that word is something on the line. If you guys aren't putting the money in, right? Like you're supposed to put money, they're all different. Sometimes it's the first 30 days, then 90 days, then the first year, etc. And the builders are saying, well, we're not going to back it all. You have to go to your agreement, which says you have to give us X amount of dollars. And a lot of them don't have that X amount of dollars. So some of them are declaring bankruptcy. Some of them are walking, etc. So that's something else that is happening as well. So a lot of investors right now have kind of two options. So one option is they're just selling, and then another option is that they're moving into the property themselves and then upping the rent. Sometimes they're doing renovations, sometimes they're not, but then they're upping the rent. Like that girl asked before, she said like 1,300 to 2,100, which they can't do. However, that owner could move into the property, then he or she could renovate or not renovate, live there for however long, and then they could up the rent after to 2,100. But either obviously scenario is not good for renters because there are not a lot of places for them to rent. So that is something that's happening. So another thing that is not, just to keep you guys all in the loop. So besides that, if the condo is not worth as much, so let's just say the condo is worth more. They bought it for 900, it's worth 1.1, or it's worth 1.2, or it's a home that they bought for 900, it's worth 1.1 or 1.2. A lot of people, unfortunately, are not being able to get financing for that higher amount because they're like, hey, when we bought it, the interest rate was X, and now the interest rate is X. So now we can't afford, the higher payments. We have to get approved at 2% higher, and we're not able to get approved at 2% higher. So it's not necessarily that the condo or the new build has gone down in price, but sometimes they can't even get approved at the new rate because of all of everything you guys have been hearing about with mortgages and so forth. So that is another problem. Also, a lot of these people own homes as well. So they bought pre-con, etc., pre-construction. So they're not able to get a mortgage on that new property, etc. But then that's affecting obviously where they live and so forth. Okay, so it's a bit of a snowball effect. Again, just want to keep you guys on the loop so you are very informed because a lot of, news articles and so forth like to just say certain stats and leave out tons of stats. So I want to give you guys all the stats so you can make the best decision for you and or your family. Okay. So I had mentioned about rents across Canada. So in general, again, not just a bachelor, not a 2-bedroom, etc., but rents in general across Canada, again, have gone up. So in BC, the average rent is now $2,534, which has gone up over 15%. Nova Scotia is actually really high. Nova Scotia is $24.48 for rent in Nova Scotia, which is up over 34%, which is pretty crazy. Ontario, so it's actually higher than Ontario. So Ontario's rent is now averaged $24.39, which is up over 18%. New Brunswick rent is $18.08, and they are actually down. So they're down 12% over October of last year. And PEI, even though the rent still seems cheap, $17.60, it's actually up over 70% over October of last year, which is obviously a large jump. None of it is $17.43 for their average rent. Theirs has gone down 2% since last year. Quebec's average rent is $17.39, and they've gone up just a little bit, 4%. Alberta's average rent is $16.13, and they have gone up over 13% since October of last year. Manitoba has gone up 5%. Their average rent is now $14.32. Newfoundland has gone up 27%, but it's still cheap rent if you ask me, $12.35. But obviously 27% is a high jump for them. And Saskatchewan went up 9%. They're coming in at the cheapest at $11.35. So cheapest province or territory in Canada. I know I don't have Yukon Northwest Territories in there. Don't ask me why. I didn't do the survey. I just relaying the information to you guys. So what was I going to say? Oh yeah. So like I said, in Ontario can only put it up 2.5% next year for rent. So if your landlord's trying to put it up more than that, again, unless you have a shared space, they cannot do that. Okay. So thank you for that person that asked. I forget your name. I apologize. Let's see. What else was I going to say? So we're supposed to get 1.5 million immigrants. So there were supposed to be between now and 2025. So there's supposed to be 400,000 a year. So obviously that's 1.2, but now they're trying for 500,000 new immigrants a year for the next 3 years. So that's 1.5. The problem is because our rent is so high, a lot of economists are afraid that, hey, they're not going to come here if our rent is so high. Like, why would they come here if it's more expensive than LA or if it's more expensive? Do you know what I mean? So that's something that they're a little bit afraid of because, again, there's supposed to be 1.5 million new immigrants, but if they can't afford to live here, then why are they going to come here? So that, again, is something, again, just trying to inform you guys of everything. And then in regards to home sales, so numbers are lower in now than like October of 2022 than in the past 20 years. So I don't mean the average sales price, but the number of homes sold was lower in October of 2022 than the past 20 years, which is insane. But it has stabilized since July, okay? So that is good because it's a bit crazy. But again, it's not the sales price, it's just the number of homes selling, okay? So I just want you guys to be clear on that. So in the GTA, the average sales price is over 1.3, And again, home sales, not home prices, home sales in the GTA are down 47% from October of last year compared to October of this year. Again, not the average sales price, just the number, the sheer mass of homes sold, the number of townhomes, condos, detached, etc. The number of homes sold in the GTA is down 47% from October of last year. Okay, just so you guys are in the loop. New home sales are not down as much. They're down only 10%. Okay, and that's again in GTA. The average condo in the GTA is now 739,000 and change, which is down from March. March it was 840. However, it is up from last year, which was 667. Again, it's 739 right now. Hi, Tyler. How are you? Hi, Tiff. Hi, Rex. Hi, Jason. Hi, Mackenzie. Can't see that. I think it's Sabrina. Thank you guys for popping in. So condo sales in the GTA are also down. So they're down 53%. Again, the number of condos sold, not the condo sales prices. Okay. So they're down 53%. However, I mentioned at the beginning, if you guys heard, that I just sold my condo today, which is where I'm standing right now in the kitchen, and we're still selling a bunch. It's just different, right? It's back to normal. People have financing as condition, they have inspection as condition, they have sale of their home sometimes even as conditions. So back before in March, let's just say, for example, we had 23 offers, 23 would have no conditions. It's not even like 05 would have no conditions. Literally 23 would have no conditions. Whereas now we have 0 to maybe 2 or 3 offers. It's not as common that we have multiple offers unless it's like a really low price point. And if we have one, for example, it usually has conditions. And even if it has multiple offers, which we had a client the other day in multiple offers, there was 3 offers and all of them still had conditions. So very different from when it was back in the spring. But again, just keeping you guys in the loop. So right now we're finding that a lot of buyers don't have the urgency to buy. Okay, so before they're like, hey, we know if we don't buy this house, there's not a lot to choose from. We know that there's tons of buyers right now. We know that even if it's a fixer-upper, we should buy it because, again, there's no inventory. But because of interest rates being higher, then there are less people that can afford to buy. So buyers are like, hey, I'm against less people, so I don't have to be as aggressive. And they're saying, hey, I'm paying more per month, so therefore I want to love it more. I don't want to have to redo this or redo that or what have you because I'm paying more. So I'm paying a premium essentially, so I want it to be more turnkey ready. Whereas before people were more, like, hey, we'll buy, a fixer-upper, or we'll buy something that needs elbow grease, etc. And now they're not wanting to do that as much, okay? So again, just keeping you guys in the loop. I know I've said that I'm like a broken record, but just keeping you guys in the loop on that. What else? So the number of homes sold in Simcoe County, again, not the sales price, but the number of homes sold in Simcoe County, like I said, is the lowest it's been since 2002. So I said that already before. But the actual number of physical homes, again, not the price. And then the number of inventory. So our active listings, not our solds, our active listings in 2016 and 2021 in October. So I'm just looking at October's from basically 2000 to now. So 2016 and 2021, there were, those times had less active listings, and this is third. So third lowest of active listings since 2000 is 2022 of October, okay? So even though we have way more listings than before, it's not compared to when we look at any other years, okay? It's just because obviously we had an extreme lack during COVID when people were afraid and they're afraid they're going to get sick and so forth. So we really didn't have any inventory. Now we have inventory, but when we look at 20 years, we really don't have any inventory. Okay. Another time close to this when we had not a lot of homes listed was in October 2008, which I remember well in real estate because it was kind of crazy. Everything was going on in the States, etc. But back then, in the GTA, there were 28,000 homes for sale. And just to give you an idea, there were just over 13,000 for sale. So obviously less than half. So that's just showing like, yes, there are more homes available right now than there was last year. However, not compared to like, there's no inventory still. So 13,000 compared to 28,000. Okay. Again, just trying to keep you guys up to date. So what else? I said about that already. Oh yeah. So although Trudeau promised, he said, hey, I'll give $4 billion towards municipalities and we'll cut the red tape and we'll make it so double of the new homes are being built. A lot of people have said, hey, that was just smoke and mirrors so he could get votes, etc. And they don't think it's going to happen. And new construction was actually down 79%. So when people are not buying new construction, so not the actual builders building, but people buying, so new people, not new people, but people buying new construction was down 79% in the third quarter of 2022. So the builders are saying, well, hey, if they're not buying, we're not going to build, which obviously is not going to get homes built twice as fast as he's saying that it's going to happen again, whether it's smoke and mirrors or not, but they're not going to keep building if people are not buying, if they're down 79% in sales, okay? So obviously this, makes it a bit stagnant, because new builders are like, hey, I'm not building. People are saying, hey, I'm not as antsy to buy because I want it to be more perfect because of interest rates. And then because investors and so forth are like, hey, I'm not making the same return, I'm going to list. Then it's just, there's so many things going on right now. That's a bit of a cluster mess. What else was I going to say? So, I'm going back to stats, okay? So although there were a whopping 91% more homes for sale this October than last year, again, that was just more COVID related, etc. It's still less than the past 20 plus years. So in the GTA, I'll just give you guys an idea, okay? So in the GTA, there were 45% less homes sold this past October than the October before. In Peel, it was down 50%. In Durham, it was down 39%. Halton, it was also down as well, 46%. And York was down 54%. Again, this is the number of homes sold, not the sales prices, okay? So if we look at the average sales prices, that's where we see that they're not down. So in Durham, the average sales price was $940. In Peel, it was 1.198. In Halton, 1.379. In Toronto, 1.53. And in York Region, 1.427. This, on a side note, is the fastest rate hike in over 3 decades, so over 30 years. This is the most it's gone up. Again, it was 0.25 in March of 2022. Now it is 3.75, and in 3 weeks it is supposed to go up again. It's guesstimated to be 0.25. They haven't been right every time. If it was 0.25, then obviously it would be 4% would be the Bank of Canada's rate right now, which would mean you'd have to get approved at 6%. So that's a stress test. So when they do the stress test, they look at your debt to service ratio. So they look at how much you're making versus how much you spend. And they have these things that basically says like, hey, her cell phone bill is this amount, her truck payment is this amount, her this, that, the other, because they want to make sure you're not making $100,000 a year but spending 98, because then obviously if your furnace goes or something happens, then you don't have any extra funds. Or are you making 100,000 and spending only 23,000 kind of thing? So that obviously they like better in your debt to service ratio. So that extra 2% that they're checking you for, they're not going to actually charge you that extra 2%. They're just making sure in case the interest rates go up more that you can pay it and you don't foreclose on your home. Okay. And basically a lot of people ask us who is buying right now. It's more people buying out of need. So they need to because they're expecting another child and their home is too small. Or for example, I was in the elevator the other day and the fellow said, oh, I have a fiance and she has a 15-year-old and we live in 800 square feet. So obviously it's getting a bit tight for them. Or somebody passes away, or, somebody's divorcing or something like that. So it's more people's need as opposed to before it was like a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out. So they're like, oh, I want the pool, or I want this, or I want that. Whereas now it's more like need per se than just, people are bored during COVID. Okay. Next question comes from Claire, and Claire is in Barrie. So Claire said, we won't be selling for at least 4 years. I want a therma spa, like a swim spa, and my husband wants a traditional pool. They are a much longer waiting list to get and not functional for my disability. What do you think? Thank you, Claire, for asking. To be honest, I don't want to side with your husband, but to be honest, it is a lot harder to sell something with like a therma spa or a swim spa or what have you, which are kind of like the big hot tubs, but they could be cool and you like swim up current, etc. Hi, Crystal. How are you? Hope you're amazing. So do you know what I mean? Like swimming, those type of things. Again, I get that you could get it faster and so forth, but when you go to resale, it's not going to be the same. So unfortunately, I do agree with your husband and get a regular pool or don't get a pool at all. Or hot tubs are really popular. They call it obviously staycation. So with COVID, a lot of people got used to not flying and so forth. So like, hey, I want my backyard to look amazing and so forth. So I would go for a hot tub or a pool as opposed to a therma spa or whatever they're called. But again, of course, as long as you know, don't like get mad at me in 4 years and say, hey, I lost money on it and they wanted me to remove it and so forth. Because yeah, it is definitely harder to sell with that. But if you can wait the 2 or 3 years, whatever the waiting list is for a pool right now, then I would get a pool. Okay. Next question, or actually it wasn't a question. Next thing comes from, who is the next one from? Oh, an organization in San Diego. So again, I like to do happy news. So this organization in San Diego only employs people that are homeless, which is really cool. So they employ people that are homeless. They teach them how to drive transport trucks, etc. And they go around to different places. So like Starbucks, Costco, Loblaws, etc. They waste like tens of thousands of pounds of food every year, whether it's past the expiration date or it comes in and it's damaged or so forth. So they train these people how to drive these trucks and so forth. And so it benefits three ways. So obviously it stays out of the landfills. It gives them a job. And then they repackage it. And then they actually give it back to the shelters and so forth. So then people have food. So I just like that. And again, they only hire people that are homeless, which I think is really cool to give them a job, of course. Next question comes from Blair, and Blair is in Ramera. So Blair says, I need to put in a new septic system, but no, people don't care about things that they can't see. My kitchen and bathroom also need a redoing. I can't do all three. What do you suggest? Thank you, Blair, for asking. You're right. The main things people look at are the kitchens, the bathrooms, and the floors. And then the main thing they ask is, when was the furnace done? When were the windows done? When was the roof done? Etc. They don't, I mean, sometimes they ask when the septic was done if the agent is familiar with rural properties, etc. But I would actually do the kitchen and the bathroom. And I wouldn't say anything about the rest. I just say, I'm not sure, I'll get it pumped for you and so forth. But I wouldn't say like, oh, I know it needs to be done, or I know there's roots into the, I personally would do the kitchen and the bathroom. I would do that. Better, more people will come to look at the property, etc. So you'll get more eyes on the property and hopefully get a bidding war. So thank you for asking. So another happy news. Back over 100 years ago, there was this lady, and she was in, I believe it was South Carolina. Yeah. And she made over 10,000 sandwiches for people in World War I. And so basically in her honor, this town said, hey, we want to make over 10,000 sandwiches in one day as well. They had much more help than she did. So they had 200 volunteers. It took them 6 hours, and they gave them all to homeless shelters and hostels and that kind of thing. She did it again back in the day for World War I, but I just like whether you're able to give money or give time, etc., just to give back. So that's why I like that story. Next one, questions from Jessie, and Jessie is in Alliston. So Jessie said, where am I here? I can barely pay my rent. How can I ever buy a home? Are there any tricks you can help with? Thank you, Jessie. That was kind of similar to a lady that asked before, but she already owns her home, but her payments are going up a lot. So, for example, wherever you rent, maybe you could have a roommate. Maybe you could move somewhere cheaper. Maybe you could sell your car, take the bus, or sell your car and have a cheaper car with cheaper payments, etc. Maybe you could shop around for insurance for your car, get a cheaper insurance. Maybe you could pick up a side job, a second job, a third job, etc. Look at, like I told her, her subscriptions that might be on her visa that she might not even know she's getting charged every month and so forth. But most commonly, just to move is the easiest. So let's just say you're paying $2,800 a month rent, and you could move somewhere. Let's just say it's $2,800, but it's a one bedroom, and you could move somewhere that's $2,300 as a two bedroom. Then you could have a roommate. Obviously, that is the easiest to do. Hi, Vanessa. How are you? Love you. Big hugs. Hope to see you before Christmas. But thank you for asking. What is next? Where am I here? Okay. So that was Jesse's question. Okay. Can you imagine basically receiving $100 million? Seems insane, but Dolly Parton just received it from Jeff Bezos. So he's the Amazon founder. So normally we hear about his ex-wife, Mackenzie Scott. She's given over $4 billion since they've split up. And he just gave $100 billion, like I said, not billion, million with an M, $100 million, still not chump change, to Dolly Parton to give. He said, do not whatever you want, but give it to whatever organization or charity you want. She can't just put it in her bank account, but to give it to any charity. So she does already have a charity, and it's Imagination Library. So they've given already 190 million books for free to children. So whether she will put that $100 million into that, I don't know, or she'll split it up, I have no idea. But he just said he liked the way that she, conducted herself, and she was always giving. So he gave her $100 million, which is crazy. But anyways, I love that everybody's giving back, and they know they can't take it with them, so they're giving it back to worthwhile causes in the meantime. Again, don't forget about our 2 guarantees. So if the market crashes and we need to sell your home, we'll sell it for free. Again, we'll tell you all the details if you call our office at 705-726-7000. Also, we guarantee you to sell your home, or we'll sell it, we'll buy it for cash. And that is all. Guaranteed to sell your home and guaranteed to sell your home for free if the market crashes. Again, call about the details. And I hope you guys never give up on your dreams, your goals, and regardless of what naysayers or people are saying around you, that you just keep going for it. And if you fall down, you get up. Thank you guys for watching and have a super night. Oh, thanks, Vanessa. Bye, sweetie.